Well, hello everyone. I am down here in the basement in my early morning cave. Had a long day, that's why my voice is a little froggy. Try to chug some Mountain Dew to get that better. So, we're doing our bonus episode for January, even though it's April, but this was the one I promised for January. So, welcome patrons. This will stay up here for a goodly amount of time, and then we'll go out on the main channel. But I wanted you guys to have a shot at this episode first. Want to thank my new Max subscriber, Clayton. Clayton does get to pick a topic a month, and hopefully I'll get to them each month, but I'll try my best. I've been doing a lot of uploading, as you can see. I've got 3 channels now. And a podcast. About to sneeze or something. I've also got a cold. Not the coronavirus, but I have been battling colds on and off. So the topic that Clayton picked for his first month was voluntary slavery and the extent of alienability. Fascinating. That's going to be fun. That's going to take me a bit of research to brush up on some source material. Now, believe it or not, because I am a strange person, this is something that I actually studied quite a bit, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, during my I'm still somewhat new, my more new libertarian evolution, where I had to tackle all the troubling questions because I can't dive into something unless I think I can have a rational answer. And I don't know about you, perhaps this wouldn't have troubled you, but if voluntary slavery was a thing in libertarianism, just like Murray Rothbard's position of parents not having to feed their children, which is a great idea for another episode, I don't know if I would have stuck around. I find the idea abhorrent. And some of you may be thinking, why? It's voluntary. We'll talk about that when I do the episode with Clayton. Now that I'm starting to talk about it, I think I might not need to do too much more research, but there was a few pieces I read back then that I need to track down again. They were very influential. But for this bonus episode, I had promised we were going to go through the temporary platform of the Libertarian Party. This is what existed for members to review prior to the first convention. The first convention is when the first platform was adopted. I believe that this was written by, if I remember correctly, we'll double check, Pip Boyles with help from others. We can actually check that right now because I know that was mentioned in newsletter number 2 because this is bonus number 2. Let's see. Yep, LP Vice Chairman Pip Boyles drafted the temporary platform after much consultation with others. But here's my memorization trivia question for you. If you listen to the primary episode, who designed the first LP logo? The Tanstaffel one with the arrow. I'll give you a minute to think about it while I wet my whistle. John James. I need to find out what happened to that individual. Too bad that's such a common name. Be very difficult to research unless someone has a lead. So, this is not the original temporary platform. I do believe we have a copy of it at Lpedia. I'll put a link in the show notes and put it up on the screen if we do, but this was a commemorative issue with this isn't an original signature of David F. Nolan, but he signed it and then it went to print. And it was printed for the Libertarian Party of California convention in the year 2000. And there's a quote on the front that I had put as one of the rotating banners on Lpedia, which says, "How can we tell where we are going if we forget the past?" And there's also a little note here that says, the following material was found in the attic of Daniel Weiner and Sandy Webb on February 5th, 2000. It is printed here in its entirety with no editing. There is more narrative in the first page, it says, the following material was prepared by members of the Libertarian Party's precursor, the Committee to Organize a Libertarian Party. Their purpose was to provide a working document for Libertarian Party members to use in answering questions. Sorry, I do have a cold. And recruiting other members during the first few months of the party's existence. A national convention open to all party members will be held in June 1972. At that time, the official platform for the next 2-year period will be adopted. It is not anticipated that the official platform will differ substantially from the following document. We will need to take a look at that. Well, I can tell you that so far, it does differ a lot in the preamble, and we might do this bonus episode in multiple parts dealing with different sections of the temporary policy, and I think I might do a temporary platform, and I think I might do a podcast on this. Let's read the narrative at the end, too, before we dive into the platform itself. It says, if you are in substantial agreement with this platform and would like to help ensure that the philosophy presented therein is represented in future elections, you can do so by joining the Libertarian Party as a working member. Annual dues are $6, $4 for students, and includes a subscription to the party's monthly newsletter, $3 for non-members. And Libertarian Party, 7748 Lowell Boulevard, Westminster, Colorado, 80030. That was David and Susan Nolan's home address. I did go and visit there. It's a totally cute little villa neighborhood, or you might consider them townhouses, but they weren't 2-story. So at least in Florida, we called those villas. Not sure what they call them here in Colorado, particularly since all 1-stories are called ranches here. Bzz, that's not correct. I know maybe that's what people are doing today, but a ranch house is a ranch rambler, and it's a specific architectural style that is not just 1 story. But I digress. Additional copies of this platform may be ordered at the following prices. 4 copies, $1. 10 copies, $2. 25 copies, $4. 50 copies, $70. 70. That would be funny. 50 copies, $7, and 100 copies for $12. So at its most expensive, it was 25 cents a piece, and at its cheapest, it looks like 12 cents each. All right. We might find that odd today where we could just run things off of our printers. They charge, and it's probably because they had to get it done at an office supply facility. All right, I took a quick break to go print out the original temporary platform, which I don't have I printed out a copy of the original scan copy, and as you can see, it came in a little booklet just like this commemorative issue. And actually, the cover is exactly the same, except for obviously where it says commemorative issue and the little slogan and where it was found and all that. And the back is exactly the same as well. And I also printed out the 1972 platform that was adopted at the convention. So we can do some comparison. Obviously, the 1972 platform has the Statement of Principles on it, which was adopted June 7th, 1972. Happy birthday, Statement of Principles. Now, first interesting thing I note. You may remember in my presentations on the Statement of Principles, I note that it had originally been called the Preamble. And we have a preamble in our current platform that's not the Statement of Principles. It's a separate item. Well, in the temporary platform, what became the Statement of Principles is called the Preamble. There isn't a preamble like we know it, and there isn't a preamble like we know it in the first platform. We're going to call this one the temporary one. We're going to call this one the first one. All right, here's how the Statement of Principles, aka Preamble, read at the temporary platform. And we can thank Zeus that we do not have this. This is a portion of John Galt's speech, is the way it reads to me. We, the supporters of the Libertarian Party, rise to challenge the myth of the omnipotent state, to defend the freedom and dignity of man. The citizen who is subservient to the state is either a ward or a slave. A ward if he receives from the state that which he did not freely earn. A slave if his life and property are placed at the disposal of the state. The free man can be neither ward nor slave. The free man renounces the initiation of force to attain his ends. He thus will not sanction the initiation of force by any agent, the state included, to attain those ends for him. The free man regards his life and property as inviolably his alone. He thus refuses to allow himself or his property to be a national resource to be manipulated for the public good or involuntary fodder for war. What's interesting here, even before this changed, you can see where it says that the free man will not allow the state to attend ends for him. Yet, the people that wrote this were minarchists, so can't use force to attain defense either, which they got around by only supporting voluntary funding. But that is not quite the point, is it, dear listener? If they monopolize the protection of rights, that also is an initiation of force. At least that's why I became an anarchist. I could not reconcile any other way. The free man recognizes as his moral right the freedom to think, speak, and act as he and he alone chooses, so long as he does not infringe voluntary relations among others. The free man disclaims any quote-unquote right and refuses to recognize any claim to a quote-unquote right by others, which requires for its implementation or enforcement the destruction of voluntary relations. Our goal is nothing less than to create a society in which the free man can flourish. There is only one system of government consistent with such a society. That system whereby government is commissioned by its citizens to protect liberty, and at the same time prohibited by its citizens from infringing liberty, except if they don't want the state to monopolize rights protection, I guess. The free man declares with John Locke, however it may be mistaken, the end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. The enumeration of positions herein should not be taken to disparage other positions which free men may share. Now, what's interesting here in the temporary preamble, it does not mention anything about capitalism. It talks about a system of government, but it doesn't mention that it has to be a capitalistic system of government. Now, I'm not suggesting in here that it could be socialist or any other such thing as that infringes upon the voluntary relations between people and has a public good. But it seems that these original authors recognize that a free market system could be known as a free market system and not necessarily a capitalistic system. Yet, in the Statement of Principles that was adopted in 1972, it says the only economic system, well, it doesn't say government system, so that's different. The only economic system, the only one compatible with the protection of man's rights is laissez-faire capitalism. And in the 1974 Statement of Principles, laissez-faire capitalism was taken out, and it just says the free market, which seems to be more in line with the original preamble. Alrighty, so let's move to the next item. Let's see if the titles of these sections are the same. The first major section is civil liberty and civil order. I'm going to merge these two together. That is the same. I don't know if the subheadings underneath it are the same. The next one is trade in the economy. That title is the same. Next one is domestic ills. That one is the same. Next is foreign policy. That's the same. Now, interestingly, unless I'm missing something here, which I am not, the temporary platform had a section called military, which is absent from the first platform. So also for a section called Diplomatic, which is also absent from the first platform. All right, this is quite a bit of material. So what we're going to do is take it one section at a time. I think that is logical. So there'll be different episodes. Consider this one the introduction, in which we talked about the statement of principles. The next one, we will talk about civil liberty and civil order. I do not wish to make these in too unbearably long like John Galt's speech. So that will be it for right now. We'll pick up back on civil liberty and civil order. I anticipate I'll do this within the week. So have an awesome day. Thank you so much, my patrons, and go forth and be free. Mi guapas de libertad.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want